So, first of all, congratulations on the show. How did you get involved in Dopesick?
Thank you. I got involved when Warren Littlefield told me about it in a Zoom meeting, kind of, I guess, right in the midst of the pandemic. And he told me about the script. He said that I should take a look at it. I did. I fell in love with it. And then I Zoomed with Danny and spoke some more about it. And I was really kind of blown away by the job that Danny had done as far as taking an issue as widespread and big and I think misunderstood as this epidemic, as far as kind of who directly was affected and how that happened, and then also who the beneficiaries were and what they got away with. There was so much to unpack, and Danny did it in such a wonderful, accessible way, humanizing everyone at every turn. And as an actor, the opportunity to be part of a project with a social application like this, which can really kind of contribute to an important conversation around restoring some justice and overturning some decisions that have led to the wrong people benefiting and the wrong people being vilified is very, very important.
Did you your character Billy is not really like your typical frat boy pharmaceutical rep. He isn't really in it for the money. I mean, he is, but there is sort of a sense that he believes in the product and believes in what he's doing, at least earlier on. What was your prep process like? Did you speak with pharmaceutical reps or OxyContin pharmaceutical reps, or did you just like rely fully on Beth Macy's book?
So no doubt that I lent heavily on Beth Macy's book and actually, mostly on Beth's book and Danny's script. So they did the heavy lifting as far as the research is concerned. But I was able to speak to people in the medical profession, about the sort of sales rep culture at that time. And it's interesting. I mean, obviously Billy is a composite character, so he's not based on any one real individual. But I think what Billy represents is the idea that, a lot of these sales reps would have gone in with, I think kind of a sense of benevolence and genuine, good intentions. But I think that, the culture at Purdue and the training program was founded on principles of bribery, deception, deceit. It was ultimately a fraudulent campaign. And young, impressionable salespeople looking to be successful got caught up in that culture, and they were responsible for sort of upholding those principles and ultimately taking advantage of doctors nationwide and in turn their patients. And I think for me as an actor, it was very interesting to represent that and also kind of play out the sort of moral, ethical battle that comes with it.
The people that you spoke to, did you get a sense that they eventually like figured out that what they're doing wasn't all that great in terms of like, peddling this idea that OxyContin was less than 1% addictive?
Yeah, one of the tricky things, I suppose, one of the barriers in the research is the fact that speaking to former Purdue reps is very difficult because many of them who left were basically threatened with legal action and were intimidated, and there were all manner of sort of tactics employed to kind of hush them. So it was quite difficult to speak to Purdue employees. I know that Danny had that opportunity, and lots of the things that he was told in those interviews with former Purdue reps, made their way into the script. He didn't have that same opportunity, but it's clear to me that those who did manage to sort of get out and spoke out against the company at a certain point would have obviously realized what was going on. And I think inevitably there were a lot of individuals who climbed the ranks and were kind of embroiled by the culture there, found the trappings of money and success, too tempting to really speak out against what everyone knew at a certain point was totally unethical.
You share a lot of scenes with Michael Keaton, the great Michael Keaton. Your characters have a father-son like relationship at one point early on in the show. What was it like working with Michael Keaton and finding that dynamic?
Unbelievable. I mean, you know, when you work with someone that talented and someone that you admire that much, you really just hope that they're like also lovely and great to hang out with. Michael couldn't have been kinder or more supportive of me. Really, you know, kind of found space, even when he was dealing with an incredibly hard challenge of playing that character and being in a very intense headspace. He found additional space to sort of be good to me and offer me advice and kind of put his arm around me, which, you know, I would never expect. And it was just so wonderful of him to do that. And I'm really grateful. And I think he also like drew some of the best work out of me as well. You know, I think he's so good and he makes things so real and immersive that, you know, he kind of encourages you to sort of raise your game. And just by the fact of how natural and realistic everything he does is, you find yourself kind of just sort of falling in step. And I was very grateful for that.
I would just the entire time be like, oh my gosh, there's Batman. There's Batman. Um,
Right.
right. Yeah. Over the last couple of years, the Sackler family, which is obviously behind Purdue Pharma, has slowly been losing their anonymity, rightfully so, and getting more of the deserved blame for in the public and the press for the opioid crisis. In September of this year, a judge granted the Sackler family immunity from lawsuits by the victims' families. Do you think the show, or how do you think the show will garner more public support, and what side effects do you hope the show has?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's certainly been a goal of Danny's and everyone involved in the show, is to course correct the current narrative. Current narrative is that the Sacklers have sort of got away with it, that what they did wasn't so bad, and that this is a drug that has been abused by a handful of abusers. And that's entirely inaccurate. The reality of the situation is that from the beginning, this was an effort by one company, micromanaged by one family, to make as much money as possible by any means necessary. And even if that meant, you know, killing American people. And that's a really, really disturbing fact to confront, but one that I think Sacklers and Purdue have done their best to evade for a long time. I hope that the details in this show that are revealed encourages people to feel a bit more empathy for the people who are made victims of opioid abuse disorder, and also understand that this was a mission fueled by greed and entirely by self-interest to make as much money as possible from Oxycontin. I really, really hope that the show raises awareness so that people can protect themselves against this drug, because it's still being prescribed at an alarming rate. And I also hope that the show raising awareness will also help bring further attention to some of the political action that is being taken already. And the Democrats are currently trying to pass a bill called the Sackler Act, which attempts to make sure that the Sacklers can't hide behind Purdue's bankruptcy and therefore avoid charges. We're in a kind of litigation and legislation phase at the moment, and hopefully the show coming out and having kind of public support will only kind of bolster the strength of those efforts.
Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what we're laying down, please subscribe to our channel and click the bell to receive notifications for all of our latest stuff.